My name is Adam Dumar. I'm filling in for Bryce Payne, who was called away at the last minute and will be unable to join us today. Um, Today we're going to be reviewing our first webinar for 2016, looking at a new year and new opportunities. We're going to discuss call center resolutions and best practice options for how we can move forward. Very good. I do want to introduce today specifically myself filling in for Bryce Payne, as well as Dave Beathers, our Vice President of Business Intelligence. He has some really exciting news and reviews that he wants to go over with us today. I'm going to go ahead and jump to our next screen. We are going to be going over several things today, so as you do have questions, please feel free to send those to adam.dumar@tcnp3.com. I'll be available to field those questions at the end of this panel, and we'll get those addressed either myself or Dave, whoever they're directed towards. Very briefly, our agenda for today is to first discuss the relationship between TCN and Global Connect. We have some exciting updates there, and we'll be hearing from a panelist, Darren Bird, who has recently come on the TCN team and will be giving us some exciting information there. We also want to review TCPA compliance. This has been on the forefront of everyone's mind for quite some time now. We do have some exciting news there that we want to review, and we want to also take the opportunity to look at options that TCN is actively pursuing as answers for TCPA compliance concerns. Related to that, we're going to look at at some case studies. This will be specifically on Dave. He'll be looking at ideas to incentivize agents, as well as best use scenarios for business intelligence and how this can really leverage and bring up some amazing opportunities for call center environments. Again, if you do have any questions, please address those to adam.dumar@tcnp3.com. We'll go over questions at the end of this panel, as well as responding to any other questions that we don't have time to get to. So, very good. With no further ado, I will turn the time over to our panelist, Darren Bird, for his updates.
And, thanks, Adam. This is Darren Bird. I just wanted to briefly talk about the merger between Global Connect and TCN. And first, wanted to wish all of you a late Happy New Year, and hope the New Year's turned out right for you, and from the business side, as also from a personal side. When we started looking at putting the two companies together, we decided that with the market, the different technologies that we had, the synergies that we were able to bring together, we felt that now was the right time to do it. And so we kind of sloganed the merger better together. And we've kind of tried to, as we've found synergies, as we've worked with the two companies to bring them together, we feel that we are better together. We kept all the client-facing support teams on both sides, as well as many of the developers from the Global Connect team, to not only continue to support and build the GC1 platform, but also to work with on the P3 platform. The combined companies bring over 1,500 clients in different market verticals, so it gives us a very strong, wide footprint of clients. Most of our clients being in the accounts receivable management space. Both platforms, as many will know, on the Global Connect side and on the TCN side, are still being supported and will be supported. And the idea, again, finding the best of both platforms and ending up with a more robust and complete platform that would, with the TCN platform, being the surviving platform in the long term. It brings a lot of enhanced industry knowledge together. The average tenure on the Global Connect team was over 10 years. So combined, there's a couple hundred years of total knowledge and experience dealing with not only the cloud-based technology, but also the different markets, most notably the accounts receivable management market. I think one of the exciting things was it increased the ability to develop and deliver the right products at the right time for this ever-changing market. So what does this mean? We have increased ability with support teams, both staffed on the East and the West Coast, to handle all client needs, to continue to provide superior customer service and support. And the areas that we lack, we will fix. Again, we have a fully staffed team on the East and West. We have outside sales people in the field so they can react to client needs, be on site when needed in a very quick matter of time. It brings more cohesiveness to the development teams. With a larger development team, we can now focus not only on the present but more on the future for product and enhancements that may not be needed today but are going to be needed well into the future. We believe this gives us the largest footprint of clients, the most robust platform, and a complete team to service not only the accounts receivable market, but also many other markets that we service in the notification, large utilities and telecommunication firms, and so forth. So it's exciting times for the companies. Again, the teams are working well together. We are receiving a lot of information and knowledge from both sides of from both companies, from our customers, to what we can do different, how we can enhance the platform, and with the right team that we have, we know that we can meet the needs of each of our over 1,500 clients. I just wanted to briefly touch on some of the TCPA stuff. We don't want to turn this into a legal discussion or anything like that, but I think most importantly, we want our clients to know that we're in this with you. We spend a lot of time, energy, and money with different legal firms in Washington, D.C. and different firms to keep us abreast of what's happening with the FCC and the TCPA, as well as participating in forums and different briefs and motions that we can file on behalf of our type of companies, as well as the accounts receivable management industry. And so we encourage you to get all of your vendors involved in this effort, and each of you involved as well, because it's a challenge that we all face. And so to try to find more balanced regulatory environment in Washington, D.C., we need everybody's help. I'm sure many of you are aware that the appeals process that started last July and August by a number of associations is in full swing. The FCC filed their arguments and motions last week, and the next response is due by the associations that filed the appeals and different companies is due early spring. And so that's in full motion. We're staying abreast with that, and we will participate in that when and where we can. A few of my colleagues were in Washington, D.C. last week, attending a large participant conference that was sponsored by Inside Arm. And the concept, or the whole basis of the conference, was around compliance and dialer compliance, and how we can warranty that our systems are TCPA compliant. And although that's a tough element, or a tough thing to put down on paper, or to indemnify that everything that the systems are TCPA compliant based on the ruling. One of the discussions that Dave Beathers and them entered into, that he can chime in a little bit well, is our platforms are a SaaS platform, which is a software as a service platform. And so we have contractual obligations between us and our clients on how their platforms are set up, the functionality and the uses that they can use that platform for. So this specifically means that TCN provides access to software and services that have been delineated to very specific functionalities, and therefore TCN, the client, are contractually bound to follow prescribed policies, including change management, access, and specific capacities that are or not included in those contractual services. And so, although this is could be a whole separate webinar on their own, we want you to know that there are many safeguards that we have in our systems to do all we can to make our system TCPA compliant. And obviously that has to be reviewed and signed off by your individual compliance teams, but we're working on a drawing, some different illustrative charts and drawings to show the system separation at the user interface, and also as well as from the physical side. Being a hosted service, all of our hardware is stored in data centers that have secure access, that very few of the TCN employees are allowed to visit and access, as well as any of our clients. And so there's a lot there. We're here to work with you on that, to provide all we can to you, to show our utmost desire to have our system compliant and meet the needs that your clients require, not only with features such as preview or manual dialing or our 10-key manual dial using using what we call our MAC, our manual our manual accept calling piece. So we have a lot of different things in there that we're working heavily with you and the FCC and our attorneys to make sure that we can build the most compliant system possible. Obviously, we're always open, and we want to hear your feedback on what we can do, and maybe different things that you guys are brainstorming around with your industry or your peers on ways that, or features or functionalities that would provide more safety or more that would just provide more comfort in a more compliant system. So again, I don't want to go on that too long. I just want to stress that we are heavily involved in this process. We stay acclimated with our attorneys, and we in communication with them, and so anything that we can do and help, we're here to do. We just encourage each of you to also get involved and do what you can to work on finding a more fair and balanced regulatory environment that allows us each to run our businesses as well as be compliant and be consumer-centric. So with that, if there's questions, again, you can email them in to Adam Dumar. With that, I will turn it over to Dave Beathers to talk, back over to Adam, who will talk for a little bit about some of the compliance features that are in process and in testing that we believe, again, will add to continued compliance features as well as continued safeguards for each of you. And then from there, Dave Beathers will wrap it up with some discussions regarding business intelligence and some real-life case studies. Back to you, Adam.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Darren. So I wanted to take a minute and kind of build on what Darren was talking about with regard to the TCPA and compliance in general. As he mentioned, we have had some recent updates. Our 10-key manually approved calling platform extension is a great tool for just adding an extra level of compliance on top of that. We also have some really exciting developments that we're actively working on. In fact, we're considering this our primary development push at the moment. It's kind of a large list. I'm not going to go into extreme detail on this, but we did want to give you guys the opportunity to see what it is that we're moving forward and what our primary objectives are as of right now, to make sure that we are able to meet your compliance concerns and requirements. One of the big ones that started with the TCPA a while ago at this point was the ability to identify phone numbers beyond just cell lines. TCN has always had and always had available as a free service the option to scrub by cell phones. We're also going to be pushing forward the ability to scrub by VoIP lines. We'll be able to identify those wire lines, hard lines, as well as pager numbers for those few pagers that are still floating around out there. We are going to be pushing an extended option to our time zone suite. We already have time zone restrictions as default settings on all TCN accounts, which can also be reinforced with our custom calling rules and schedule rule options. But we're going to be looking to push this even further to identify time zones and create better options for Canadian clients, as well as reinforcing the current structure that we have within US dialing as well. And what I mean by that is moving on to our identifying by call locations. We'll be able to pinpoint more precisely where a phone number resides and give better options for handling that phone, whether it's based on time of day or the specific area or region that you have concerns with. And again, I want to specify that this does extend our calling rules into Canada and Mexico as well. And I do want to stress again the fact that default rules have always been in place, but this is going to be an enhancement that allows us to create much more customizable rules that can recognize Canadian and Mexican calling areas. So this should be a huge benefit and a huge update from there. We've always had the ability to add by phone number to the do not call list. We're going to enhance that so that we can actually start adding account numbers. And so if you have a specific account with multiple phone numbers, that can be added to the do not call list in real time, allowing those numbers to be safely loaded on additional lists without fear of them actually being dialed outside of the restrictions that will be placed there. The regional blackouts, and I also want to throw in the holiday blackouts as well, allows you to put in temporary blocks, whether this is due to a natural disaster, a holiday, or any other rationale that you might have, either based on a state or an area code, or in the case of a specific date for any area at any time. This should add a lot more security if you have concerns of automated processes running and sending lists into the TCN system for automatic upload. If you have blackout dates enabled, you'll be able to stop those calls before they even process. So it should be a huge benefit to anyone using automated processes. Again, building upon what we currently have for custom calling rules and schedule rules, we're actually going to be able to create compliance profiles. So you'll be able to say if the information that I'm running matches this criteria, apply these rules, otherwise apply separate rules to make sure that all of those can be maintained down to a specific client level. And then again, building on that idea of adding account numbers to the DNCL, we can also add frequency restrictions. So if this number or this account has been dialed 3 times in the last month, don't dial it again until next month starts. This has been a feature that's been requested fairly consistently, and definitely one that we've given a lot of priority to. It is a little tricky from the TCN side as it has been presented, but this is going to be one of our primary motivations moving forward, is making sure that we can match rules and restrictions based on an account versus just a phone number. And then building upon that, our IT team has identified the ability to place restrictions on frequency by the dialing mode. So if we're dialing predictively, we can also have separate rules that would still allow manual attempts or preview attempts to those phone numbers or account numbers. And so we can have different rules based on the type of dialing you're doing, based on the region, the date, and based on either the account number or the specific phone number you're looking at. Really excited about these compliance options that we have moving forward. This should make things a lot more flexible when it comes to placing those rules, and especially if you have concerns going over state or even international lines. This adds a lot of flexibility and dynamic to the TCN platform. So moving from there, oh, sorry. Try that again. Moving on from there, I want to turn the time now over to Dave Bethers. He'll be presenting on our business intelligence options and how these can be used to help incentivize clients better.
Appreciate the intro, and Adam and Darren, thank you for the time. And thank you all for participating with us. Just a final note on that business compliance suite. On the compliance suite that's coming out, most of the heavy lifting has been done on that, and so we're right in the process now of doing extensive testing. The nice thing about that too is that it will offer a testing environment so that you can put in scenarios to validate the rules that you have in place. But appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and share, let's see, I'm going to share my screen if I can here. Adam, do you want to give me control to share my screen? I want to get into business intelligence here and talk about a number of things. And yes, you're still in the right webinar. And yes, this is a picture of a pigeon in a box. To introduce TCN's business intelligence, I'd start with one of my passions, pigeons. No, actually, it's my passion for data. As an undergraduate in psychology, I had an emphasis in learning behavior. What that basically meant was they gave me a pigeon, some pigeon food, and a box, and left me in a room for hours on end. So you might ask, well, what do you do with a pigeon, some food, and a box? Basically, you teach a pigeon how to read. What? Yes, really. We got to the point, and I got to the point with my pigeon, where I could put up a red card, or a red cue as you see here, and the pigeon would only turn in a clockwise circle. Then if I put up a green card, it would turn in a counterclockwise circle. Now, you know, that's pretty close to reading, and I got to the point where we were starting to introduce letters instead of colors. But the fundamental point there is of learning and how to shape behaviors with incentives. So as long as I was able to do two things, number one, observe, and number two, measure the behavior time, then I could choose to reinforce the desired behaviors and eliminate or remove the undesired behaviors from the pigeon. Now basically, I really am, you know, I really do love behavior, and I guess you could call me a behavioral scientist from way back. So especially understanding behaviors and how they're affected by rewards and punishment, you can imagine that that comes in really handy, especially as I'm a father of 5. So it's very handy at home, and you know, my wife gets after me here and there for playing around with my kids. Hopefully they'll turn out right. They seem to be doing so far okay. But as you can imagine, this is also perfect for working with call centers. So what makes TCN different besides the pigeon? One of the things that makes TCN different is our platform, our call center platform. The availability of the features, the functionality, it really is a technology-driven company, and we meet the technology requirements of our clients. When you have that kind of capacity and capability, the next thing that is necessary for getting the desired behaviors, in many of our cases, in many of your cases, the desired behavior is getting a payment. You need to be able to observe and then be able to make decisions based on those observations. So I know I started out with the pigeon here, but this business intelligence that we've really gotten into is very, very much in line with the having a passion for data and having an understanding for data. But in addition to that, it's simplifying this whole process. With our business intelligence, with our business analytics tools, and with our consultation services, you're not required to be a behavioral scientist to get the results that you need. You simply need to have business intelligence at your fingertips. So I'm going to show you 3 different case studies where, and it was interesting, I got with my colleague today and we were reviewing and for last minute of the different case studies that we wanted to share with you, because each time we interact with one of our clients, it seems that we could have a very specific case study on a very specific matter. So we chose 3 of the most, the ones we thought you would be most interested in. This first case study, actually a combination of business intelligence and functionality from the call center world. In this is one of the top 10 largest BPOs in the world. They had an interesting challenge. They had individual account ownership, and they had a problem with penetration. They were taking about 3 days to penetrate 200 to 300 accounts per agent, and they wanted to increase that. So they wanted to increase account penetration as well as obviously increase right party contacts. To do this, they asked us to help them put their agents, their individual agents, mind you, on predictive dialing, while, number one, maintaining account ownership as much as possible, and number two, while having a less than 1% call abandonment rate. So that's a very tall order. If you can imagine your scenarios where you have individual account ownership, how are we able to do that? Well, as I mentioned, we have the technology with our call center platform, and we have business intelligence to showcase, and not only for our benefit from a case study perspective, but from a managerial perspective to ensure that the results were what they were expecting and what they wanted to. So with this combination, this company was able to implement a 4-tier cascade to where if the initial tier, the individual agent, was not available to answer the call, then any number of 3 other tiers of available trained agents would be able to handle that call. And that whole process happened under 500 milliseconds. So under a half a second, that call would be answered by the next capable and highest trained agent to fill that individual agent's queue. So let's get into some of the results here. This diagram just shows you this chart is directly from our business intelligence tool, and it's very nice because you can pull the different types of data that you would like. You can say, hey, I want to look at how many connections I have. I want to look at how many calls my team handled. I want to look at how many of those calls were handled by my Tier 1 or the owning agent, how many were handled by Tier 2, Tier 3, and Tier 4. As you can see here, this is very clear, and this is on a monthly basis showing the progression of how the different teams were able to work down the control to have a good balance of agent performance and the overall penetration, which was their goal, along with an increase of right party contacts, which I'll show you in a minute, but as well as be able to ensure the account ownership to the highest degree possible. So with our business intelligence, it just took maybe 20 minutes for us to design this, what we call as an insight, to be specific to what they wanted to track, measure, and produce with their results. As you can see here, the account ownership with the first tier agent is still fairly high, starting at close to 70% of the first tier calls handled by that initial agent. This is blended as well, by the way, inbound and outbound calling. And you can see that they've actually settled in a 62 to, somewhere around 62% ownership to get the penetration results that they want to have happen. So with business intelligence, the case study is great because it shows how this can be achieved, and you can see here that over an entire month, only 34 calls and 9 calls and 39 calls actually ended up with Tier 4 agents. So this was able to reduce their abandonment rate by January to be, what was it? I think they had 2 calls that were abandoned in January. It was a very incredibly low number of calls for the entire month. So this is what we're finding with TCN and what we've known for a long time. The platform performs incredibly well. It outperforms efficiently wise any other call center platform out there. But now you're able to see those results in the way that you want to see them and compare them to see what's really occurring. Just with a click of a button, I could change this to drill down into January. This is an image, of course. I could drill down into January. I could look on a specific day in January and see what my results are. I could even look at a specific agent or a specific business group and see what my results are. So very, very powerful, but yet simplified so that as the client met with our BI team, they helped us understand what they wanted to accomplish and what they wanted to achieve. We turned around and gave them a tool within a day to be able to see that effort after our customer support team obviously built the tiers for them. But this whole process really took less than a day to implement this strategy with their teams. So very phenomenal. The results of this, of course, you can see, now you can see how the tiers handle the calls, but what did that do for RPCs and for overall productivity? Remember, the client initially had a goal and said, I want to increase right party contacts while maintaining account ownership, as well as increase my penetration for my accounts. They actually went from penetrating 300 accounts in 3 days to penetrating 600 accounts in 2 days, in less than 2 days, I should say. So that's also including having each agent have their own individual DID as well as their own individual voicemail box, so that on return calls, on the callback, or as individuals called back the phone number, they would be presented with an IVR if the agent wasn't available. If the agent was available, it would go right to the agent, the owning agent. If the agent wasn't available, they would be presented with an option to speak to another live agent or to leave a voicemail for the owning agent. So very nice scenario, but really here's the results. Before TCN, the green line indicates when TCN was implemented for this program. This shows about 220 agent hours per day. The production hours is the red line, so agent production hours per day. So it was about 220 agent hours per day, and that went down to, well, let's just call it 120 or 130 on average of production hours. So we were able to reduce their overall production hours that the agents were on the system that were actually calling, I should say. And then this blue line is the money line. I'm sorry, I have that backwards. So yes, the blue line is the money line, the RPCs. So they started with an RPC count of what was roughly 0.7 right party contacts per agent hour. So that's in the 130 range, and they went to up to 220 right party contacts per day, which was the equivalent of 1.9 right party contacts per agent hour. So that is, it's an increase of 270% right party contacts per agent hour. So one thing, it's phenomenal that we know the platform is capable of doing things like this. But to be able to turn over a very simple tool to an agent, a dialer agent's hands, so that they can actually monitor or they can see it for themselves and they can track their success. And if they want to make modifications, or if they want to say, hey, well, I want to also include a line that says, show me abandons before and after, or show me this, or show me that. With our help, we can do it in minutes, but if they wanted to, if they were a data geek, they can make the changes in minutes as well. So incredibly powerful when you think of the different strategies and programs and changes that you may want to make in your contact center. But maybe right now you don't have good visibility into, will it work or will it not work? Now you have that visibility. Case study number 2 is a case study on a client that was having a tough time with meeting their service level agreements with their client. This is a complete inbound call scenario where they had multiple call centers across the nation handling multiple clients on multiple inbound calls. This is kind of a very unique beast in that as they came onto TCN, they were not meeting their service level agreements, and they had a really hard time seeing what they wanted to see. And so what we did, and in fact, I'll just be honest, this was last night. We have one of our team members is out there working with the client right now, onboarding them, and they said, hey, we need to see these things, and they didn't let us know that beforehand. And so in about an hour, we put together this dashboard. So this dashboard shows, we had a theory, we had a thought of, well, look, let's see what we need to see in order to help them meet their service agreement. First, we need call counts, then we want to see abandons, and we want to see this by hour of the day for a yesterday view. Then we also want to see what's the average duration of the calls that are being abandoned. And so remember, this is not accounts receivable management, so they've got consumers that are making inbound calls where their average call length before they hang up is 5 minutes. So obviously there's a staffing concern here. Obviously there's an issue here, but they have a very specific metric that they need to meet for their average speed of answer time, or what somebody could call a wait time for the customer. And they were not meeting that. So when they weren't meeting that, we needed to start discovering why not and what are the specifics. So as we dug into it, we had a theory and we started chasing that theory and adding different metrics to see what we needed to see. As you can see here, it's very insightful, very revealing, and instead of doing data dumps to an external source, entering that information into Excel, running pivot tables, it's actually right here at your fingertips. So you can see a couple of things here that we were also looking at. Average wait time for the agent. Remember, these are inbound calls, and that's got a whole nother case study associated with it, which is very exciting. Did I mention I'm a data geek? Average talk time, average hold time, average wrap time, average handle time, which is actually including how much time calls are on hold and some other metrics. So even though it may have a label here, and this is a very interesting point, working with you all for over 10 years, you all have different definitions of what certain key performance indicators mean and what certain metrics mean. Your clients have different definitions of what they mean and what others mean. So when we can go in and say, hey, your average handle time includes your talk time of your agent, your wrap-up time of your agent, but it also includes if you put that call on hold. So we can customize that specific metric but still include it in an overall dashboard, which just imagine hitting export right here and sending this document to your client instead of the after hours, the weeknights, the weekends that your current staff is spending right now compiling this information and putting it into a pretty form or a pretty chart to send to your clients. These are template-based, so once they're defined, they're very easy to access and to view, to modify, and to export. So just on one point alone, if you've got weekend warriors that are data crunchers that you're spending money on, this will recover their time and get them back to managing people and behaviors through this tool instead. But back to this case study. So we're discovering different things. We get to the point where we say, you know what, obviously you're abandoning many of your calls, even up to 50% of your inbound calls. That's not good. How many agents would you need? So we added to this and took the metrics that help us understand the average handle time of the call, the amount of calls coming in, and we're also able to merge in a prediction that said, during this hour you actually needed this many agent hours. This is how many are required. This is how many you had. And there's the shortcoming, there's the discrepancy. And what's fascinating is I have a filter tool right here. So if this is the entire floor, if I want to refine this to one particular group of agents, I can just, in my filter, I can choose their team group. Or if I want to look specifically at one agent and see their agent performance, I just pop that agent's name in that filter. All this data would be specific to that situation in that filter. You can see how this is an incredible tool to not only save the individual's time, but get the actual data in front of the individuals that are making the changes and expected to perform. So with accurate data in front of them, they can go ahead and do their job. They can decide, hey, we need to move staff, or we need to change how we're considering our agents. And let's just go down here to one other aspect of this case study that was very, very insightful and interesting. We included this insight, which is an agent level report on the agent's use of time. This column is by hour, and it just basically says, for the given time period, This is how long per day that the agent is logged in an hour. So this is like their time clock. So with that time, we were able to say this is how much time is being spent in pause. So of 86 hours on average, or as a sum, 18 hours were being spent in pause. That's 21% of the agent's time spent on pause or breaks. And I've got to say that this client deals with a lot of union agents, and so this is actually normal for them. However, the normal call center metrics before they got to TCN could not include that. We've actually merged in this 21% of pause time into this assumption for how many agents are needed, how many agents hours are needed. So we're accounting for those very specific variables that each of your clients, each of your agent team members, and each of your call centers may have. Down here, we're just going on, it talks about the agent production time. Here's a very specific metric of that production time for how much time is in wrap, talk, and wait time. It even shows how much time was spent in transfer and how many counts, how many times they actually went on pause, along with any time that they were actually in hold. So very, very precise metrics that we can get for and get dialed in for your circumstances and your situation. Over here, this just shows the metrics by the agent as well, specifically by agent, who's taking the most calls, but also how well are they doing in those calls, and are they overwhelmed? And clearly we can see that this first agent is overwhelmed with their customer wait time of 7 minutes. So with this client, we've actually prescribed a couple of different treatments. One of those treatments obviously is around staffing, but they're not going to be able to staff up to recover 50% of their calls that they're abandoning very quickly, or in this case 37%. So for this client, we're prescribing place in line callback, which will actually let the consumer press a key. It will keep their place in line, and the agent will get a preview screen when they're available of the next call and the next caller to call back, so that they will be able to offer much better customer support and service. Let me spending way too much time on this one case study. I'm just going to cycle into the next one now until I get excited about this. This one is on agent performance, the final one here. So for this one, this is just kind of a review of just what you get when you get BI, business intelligence. Not only do you get these tools, but the real focus of BI, it's not going to do you any good to have a tool if you don't understand how to use it. So we get with our clients very first and foremost, and we ask what are the top 3 goals that you want to accomplish with reporting or with business intelligence. We listen to those goals. We review the entire account and their entire processes, looking for things that match up or don't match up with best practice scenarios. As we go through that, we start to gather this concept of, hey, there's something missing here, or in order to get these results, this has to happen. And we start to build out those insights and those dashboards to our clients' specific needs. I have clients that call me up, and we have just standing meetings, at least 2 or 3 a week, where we go through their checklist of priorities of what they want to accomplish to be more productive as a call center. And that's really the other half of the equation. You do have these tools at your fingertips, but we wrap that with a consulting package where we spend that time with you, and we're the experts on the call center platform. You're the experts on your business. With the business intelligence, we can show you what you're doing with your strategies and with your resources and how best to measure those. One specific thing just on agent performance that's really revolutionized most every client that I work with in the accounts receivable management. You all have metrics that you're tracking and you're watching on a daily or monthly basis or weekly basis. So some of these metrics are normal to you. One metric that has proven to be very, very valuable is that you're uploading information to TCN on your dial files. In those dial files is typically a balance of debt owed. So we can go agent by agent and say, agent, for the past month, you had $115,000 of debt presented to you where you indicated you coded a right party contact. So we call that an opportunity, a very large opportunity. Well, John, how did you do with that $115,000 of opportunity that was presented to you? And they can look and they can see that maybe they only collected 30% of the face value of the debt for that month. But now they have a very direct and observable behavior to measure performance and evaluate their agents as well as their team's performance metrics, whether that's 40% collection for the entire team, the entire floor, and which agent is, way off base, which agent is not off base. So it's really changed the way that our clients are looking at their most important resource, and that's the agent time. What are your agents doing, and what are they? How well are they performing with your definition of success? Well, as you can imagine, and you can see here, they have a number of different metrics that they're using. But back here at the very end, they have a proprietary scoring system where they're weighting different metrics differently. So they have more importance on the balance or on the amount of RPCs that are produced, the amount of conversations, or excuse me, the converted payments, the amount of production hours. All those things are compiled into a very specific score for this company where they can then rank their agents. And with one glance, they know who they need to work with and who they need to not work with. Before it used to be, hey, this agent has a lot of wait time. Okay, go help that agent so they don't have much wait time. You know what? You can see here that it's not about the wait time always for the agent as far as agent performance goes. Some of the best agents have some of the largest wrap times. Why is that? Well, hey, they're processing payments. They're doing exactly what they're supposed to be doing, but they're getting a bad rap for that. So business intelligence gives the insights that allow you to really focus on the performance, the behaviors that you want to modify. So just like that pigeon, you can basically turn your call center into a very highly efficient team and actually focus on incentives and rewards that your agents that really will affect the behavior that you're looking for. And I think we're at the top of the hour there, Adam. I'm going to turn that back over to you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Dave. Appreciate your presentation and your information that you've done on here. Excellent. Okay. Just wanted to finish off. I know we are at the top of the hour. We had a little bit of a late start. I have a couple questions that I did want to go over before we turn this back off. And David, actually, it looks like some of these are for you, so I'm going to kind of bring you back on here. And hopefully you can answer some of these questions for us. So, very good. What is the process for initiating the business intelligence? How do we get that turned on?
Oh, great question. So first thing is just email or call into customer support, the magic 800 number, and just ask for business intelligence. What that's going to do is that's going to reveal a business intelligence button at the top of your dashboard. And there's going to be some standard default dashboards and insights for you to look at. But that's also going to kick off a notice to the BI team, which I'm a part of. And we'll actually reach out to you and schedule an appointment with you to give you an overview of what it's capable of, and also really help you understand if you want to go beyond the basic, which is a free version with the standards. It will explain what the pro package entails, and also, as we've seen here, it will really give us an opportunity to get together and see just how help you and assist you in your business. So that's all kicked off just with an inquiry, an email or a phone call into customer support.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dave. This is kind of a follow-up to that. We have a question here from a smaller agency. They said they have 5 agents, and they're wanting to know, are they too small for consulting?
Oh, that's a great question. No, our consulting package, you know, even the pro package for small or large companies, there's if you want to go pro, there's a paid subscription, and the subscription is for how much data you're accessing. If you want a year's worth of data historically, if you want to just the last 4 weeks or the last 16 weeks, there's different packages that really fit our clients well. Then as far as the consulting side goes, it depends on the agency, but for the most part we're finding that there is an initial consultation that we'll perform for our clients for a nominal fee. It's usually about $300 or so. It just depends on how much front-end work you'd like us to accomplish. And then from there on out, there's just a consultation fee of $150 per hour. And that may sound like a lot, but I'll give you testimonial after testimonial of where we're recovering, you know, 10 times that much amount in lost efficiencies with our work. And we're very upfront with when something will cost money and when it won't cost money, and there's no charge for just getting together and the initial evaluation and you know, we think that this would be a benefit to you or this won't be a benefit to you, and we're having a lot of fun with this, and so are our clients. They're really enjoying it.
Fantastic. This is actually a 2-part question. The first part I think is more directed at me, but then the second portion is directed at you as well. The question is with regard to compliance. When are sorry, let me reread this. It came in from a couple different sources, so I want to make sure I word it correctly. What kind of timeline do we have for implementing our compliance suite? And I do want to point out right now, we don't have a specific ETA on when this will be made live. We are in active development on it. Some of these features are obviously more complete than others. Once we have that entire list that I was showing completed, we are going to push it as a giant compliance suite. So it'll be one package. All of those features will be available at one time. In the meantime, there is a lot of testing and retesting that has to go into this. Obviously, with the nature of compliance being what it is, we have to make sure that everything is pinned down specifically and make sure that it is working correctly before we start running live data through there. So we are approaching this very cautiously, but at the same time, this is our primary development focus at the moment. So do keep an eye out for updates. We will be providing those as we get closer, and we're definitely going to be working with everyone that is interested in implementing any portion of that compliance package as it becomes available. Related to that, Dave, this was kind of a follow-up on this. Are there any options that would allow the intelligence tool to be used from a compliance standpoint or to assist with compliance concerns?
Absolutely, absolutely, and we're using that consistently with our clients. So just think of how many times you're calling an individual at an account level. All the rules that you outlined in the suite, there's many points where business intelligence is going to be very key to help you say, you know, my clients understand that we're compliant, but they want to see it. Well, we can help pull those reports with business intelligence and show you what you need to see. But absolutely, even today, starting today, there's a number of different things that you're able to look at. We even talked about one today where, you know, a compliance level, so to speak, on abandonment with Tier 4. You know, how to handle that, and how to see, you know, what areas of the state or country you're calling, and how that lines up with uploaded zip code, for example. So there's a number of different ways we can get into that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dave. I think that will be all our time. We've gone a little bit over. I do thank everyone for bearing with us as we had a slightly late start. But thank you everyone so much for your time. If there are any additional questions, please feel free to forward those to adam.dumar@tcnp3.com. You can also send any questions to sales@tcnp3.com. We'll be more than happy to take a look at those, and we'll make sure that everyone does get a response back. Also keep an eye out for all registered attendees. We will be sending out a recording link to this presentation, and so any additional information that you want to review or go back over, you will be able to do that at that time. Thank you again, everyone. Appreciate all of your time, and hope you have a terrific new year.